Okay, we've not done a ranking for a while, so let's change that. Here's my personal countdown of Stephen King's published novellas. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is a place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. Now, my main focus at the moment is going through the movies and adaptations of Stephen King's work, but once a month I dip back into the books because I've covered all of his books already, and I give you a book special, and that's what we're doing in this video. And not only is it a book special, it's a ranking, and I know you love rankings, so I'm going to be counting down my ranking of Stephen King's published novellas. So we'll get to that in a few moments, but first just a couple of things for me to plug for you. So please do go and check out the Constant Writers podcast. You can watch it on this channel or you can get it wherever you listen to your podcasts. That is a series of interviews between me and some indie horror authors talking about them, their work and their relationship with Stephen King. It's a chance for you to dig into the minds of other Stephen King fans and discover some new authors for you to go and read. So do go and give that series a listen. If you like getting recommendations for new horror authors, then check out my mailing list as well. There's a link in the description. You get some fiction from me for free just for signing up. You get this in ebook form, and every email you get an indie horror author recommendation and another story from me. And lastly, if you want to, and you want to run your own Stephen King trivia nights, then why not pick up a copy of the Ultimate Stephen King Quiz Book, which I spent 2 years of my life writing and published last year, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, links in the description below. And if you want to hear more about it, then dig into the archives of the Losers Club podcast, because I was a guest on there in December 2022. It's a lot of fun, trust me. Okay, let's get on to this month's book special then. And I thought it was about time we did a ranking. And well, I've ranked all of his books. I've given you my overall ranking. You can watch that if you want to. But something I haven't done is start breaking it down a bit. So I want to, in this video, count down in a spoiler-free fashion my ranking of Stephen King's published novellas. So that's what we're going to do. I didn't even know what a novella was until I started reading Stephen King. Turns out he's pretty fucking good at them. So we're going to count down my ranking of them. Now, a couple of caveats for you. As ever with the rankings, this is my personal opinion. I'm not looking to make a definitive ranking of the novellas, but I'd very much love to hear your favourites. So let me know what you think of Stephen King's novellas. Which ones do you love? Which ones do you perhaps not love so much? And let's have a chat about it in the comments. But just bear in mind, this is my ranking. So if something you like is quite low on my list, hey, that's just where I place it. Your opinion is valid, so is mine. It's all good. Second caveat is around the choice of titles in this list itself. Now, basically I'm just trying to head off some angry comments here. I decided to go onto Stephen King's official website and take the list of titles that are listed as novellas there. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that list that all of these are novellas. There are some things in this list that I would count as a short story, and there are some that aren't even here, such as the 4 stories in Full Dark, No Stars. I would definitely count them as novellas, but according to that website, they're short stories. So basically, don't at me. These titles, these 24 titles, are taken from Stephen King's official website. They're the ones that are listed as novellas, so that's why I decided to go for. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, enough talk. Let's get into my spoiler-free countdown ranking of Stephen King's 24 published novellas, at least according to his website. Okay, at 24, my least favourite. It's found in 4 Past Midnight. It's The Langoliers. Too long, too silly. No thanks. At 23, it's Blockade Billy. Now, I love this standalone edition of it. It is terrific, and you can find it also in Bazaar of Bad Dreams if you can't track down a copy of this. But I don't really care about or understand baseball, and this story is quite baseball heavy. So even though it's well told and I can get the broad strokes of it, there's just others I prefer. So it's down at 23. At 22, we're back in 4 Past Midnight and The Library Policeman. A couple of deeply unsettling and chilling moments, but mostly just gross and weird and a bit unnecessary, at least for me. At 21, it's N, which is collected in Just After Sunset and is available as a comic book, I think, as well. I've not read that yet. Now, N is one that I want to like more, and I love the vibes it has, but As I find with most Lovecraftian type things, which N definitely sits in the realm of, it just never quite with me, you know? So I can't really put it any higher. So at 20, we're jumping into Hearts in Atlantis. Now, I wouldn't have expected to jump into Hearts in Atlantis so soon, but according to that list on the website, all 5 of the tales here are novellas, which I disagree with, but anyway, let's go with it. So my 20th pick for a novella is Heavenly Shades of Night Are Falling, which is the final part in this book. It's fine. It's very well written. I like it as a way of rounding off this book. It's a short story. But yeah, it's my least favourite in the book. So there we go. At 19, Why We're in Vietnam, the 4th novella in this book. It's mostly kind of just, yeah, good, like it, but for one staggering final image, which just notches it above the final part of this one. So at 18, If It Bleeds, taken from the collection If It Bleeds. It's a sequel to The Outsider. It gives us more Holly Gibney. It fleshes out Holly Gibney a bit, and particularly her relationship with her mum. It's fine. It's my least favourite of this book, but it does have some good moments. And like I say, it does help in terms of making me hate Holly Gibney a bit less. At 17, we're sticking with If It Bleeds and Mr. Harrigan's Phone. A perfectly solid King drama. Really leans in on that young kid old man relationship that he does really, really well. And there are some great moments, but generally speaking, it's kind of a flat 7 out of 10 all the way through. So it's fine, it's perfectly enjoyable, but it's very mid-table. At 16, sticking with If It Bleeds, it's Rat. A very fun story that kind of feels like it was one that maybe got rejected at the last minute from Skeleton Crew and has sat in a drawer since the 80s. It's spooky, it's fun, it's silly, and yeah, it's enjoyable. So at 15, it's You Are, which I have collected in Bazaar of Bad Dreams. Now, it's another one that I'd probably count as a short story, but hey, it's listed as a novella. And it's quite possibly the longest and most in-depth promotional thing for a Kindle that you could ever imagine. The hook of that story is a pink Kindle that seems to have connections to other worlds than these. And yes, I use that phrase deliberately. It's fun, there's some good pieces of action, but again, there's just quite a few on this list that I like better. So hey, it's a 15. At 14, another one from 4 Past Midnight, and it's The Sundog. I do like this one. It's a... oh, what's that? No idea what that is. I bookmarked for something. Anyway, I do like this one. It's a Castle Rock story, kind of a prequel to Needful Things, and it's about a boy who gets a camera for his birthday, a Polaroid camera. He takes pictures and realises, hey, it's just showing me a picture of a picket fence, and then a dog appears, and then, hang on, is that dog getting closer? It's fun. At 13, the last one we're going to talk about from 4 Past Midnight, Secret Garden, Secret Window. No, Secret Window, Secret Garden. Always get that fucking mixed up. I'm fully aware that this is not the best story in this book, and 13 on my list of 24 is probably way too high. But this is my list, and I have a soft spot for this story. Always had since I read it. I really like the movie as well, even though objectively it's probably not that good. But what can I say? It's about a writer called Mort Rainey who is off in his lake house retreat, and somebody knocks on his door one day. He opens the door, and there's this intimidating guy from one of the southern states saying, basically, you plagiarized my story. And then shit starts getting weird, and I like it a lot. Number 12, we're back in Hearts Atlantis and Blind Willie. When I first read Hearts in Atlantis, Blind Willie was probably my least favourite of the 5, but on reread, it's shot up to my 3rd favourite and my 12th favourite novella overall. And I just find it a really interesting story. So it's kind of, the hook about it, without giving too much away, is about a street beggar who is perhaps more than he seems. And I don't know, second time around, I just really thought about it a lot more. And it really grew in my mind as something that I really enjoy. So there we go, number 12. And number 11, and bear in mind, this is a novella listed on the official Stephen King website. It's Elevation. See, fucking told you it was a novella, not a novel, as it says on the front of this. I love Elevation. I think it's a cracking story. There's just other ones I like more than Elevation on its own. But hey, there we go. There's Elevation. And you can check out my 19 reasons to read Elevation right there. At 10, Gwendy's Button Box. Another standalone that is definitely a novella. First one of the Gwendy's trilogy. Absolutely worth a read. You could probably breeze through it in one sitting if you've got enough. If you've got a couple of hours spare. Check out my 19 Reasons to Read It if you want more convincing, but really, really enjoyable. Okay, at number 19, we're going back into Just After Sunset and a story called A Very Tight Place. Now, I would argue A Very Tight Place is absolutely a short story, but it's listed as a novella, and, well, if we're taking it as a novella, then I'm fucking having it in the top 10, because I love this one. Now, I love it because, frankly, it's gross. The hook of this one, without giving too much away, well, a man is lured to a construction site by his enemy and ends up locked into a portaloo, or a porta potty, depending on where in the world you're from. Porta potty full of shit. And it doesn't go particularly well as he tries to escape. Yeah, it's gross and nasty, and it's really, really good. At 8, we're back in Hearts in Atlantis, and the story Hearts in Atlantis. A fantastic story, a fantastic portrait of what life in a US college was like in the 60s. Feels very, very autobiographical, and is just a terrific piece of storytelling. Had me hooked all the way through, and I really, really like it. It's my favourite in this book, apart from number 7, Low Men in Yellow Coats. The opening story of this one, definitely a novella in my book, possibly even a novel actually, compared to some authors' book lengths. What have we got there? Another drama. We've got a young boy, Bobby, and we've got a new old man neighbour friend, Ted. They become friends, and Bobby learns that Ted is on the run, but he's on the run from somebody that Bobby has never really quite experienced before. And again, other worlds than these connections in this one, all over the place. A really, really good, heartfelt story with those tower connections. It's cracking. Okay, at 6, we're on to the big dogs now. We're dipping into different seasons for the first time and the breathing method. Now, the breathing method, as you've worked out, is my least favourite of different seasons, but that is still high fucking praise because all of the stories in this book are fantastic. Different seasons, well, that's our first visit to the club, which is this slightly odd storytelling club made up of, I assume, almost entirely old white men in New York. And we joined them on their Christmas Eve special, which is when they do spooky stories. And in particular, we hear the story of one woman's determination to give birth according to her fucking birth plan. And good for her. Yeah, it's a really good, really chilling story. Perfect for a winter's evening. Fucking train. Train! At 5, we're sticking with different seasons and apt pupil, and another old man, young man, friendship, relationship dynamic, except this one is fucked up. This is one dark, bleak story. I mean, you recognise what that is, right? You recognise what kind of salute that is? Yeah, there's a lot of that in this story. Yeah, fucking great. Like I say, really dark, really bleak, but really, really good. At 4, another one from different seasons, arguably the most famous one from different seasons. It's Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, the one that inspired the movie The Shawshank Redemption. It's a wonderful story, full of hope. You probably know, set in a prison, Andy Dufresne, he's there for murdering his wife, insists he didn't do it, and then what's he going to do about it? Yeah, it's a story for the ages. But there's 3 novellas by Stephen King that I prefer to it. So there you go. At 3, we're going back to If It Bleeds and The Life of Chuck. Perhaps a surprise to get this high up, but both times I've read it, I've absolutely loved it. It's a story about a guy called Chuck, told in reverse. It's very powerful, very heartwarming, very literary as well, very creative. And yeah, I just loved it both times. There's parts that made me fill with joy, there's parts that made me feel very sad, and there's also some creepy parts in there as well. It's just a wonderful, wonderful story. At 2, it's the story that kicks off Skeleton Crew. I'm talking about The Mist, of course. One of his all-time great stories. If you don't know the synopsis, well, this weird, mystical mist descends on a main town and traps a bunch of its residents in the supermarket. Turns out that there's stuff out there in the mist more than just, what, condensation? Whatever. I don't do science, but whatever makes up mist. There's monsters in the mist. It's a monster story. And the humans in the supermarket can't go out. So they're trapped with each other. And then it all goes a bit Lord of the Flies. It's really fucking good. But that means that my overall favourite novella, and it definitely is a novella. I have no issues with this one being called a novella. My favourite one is The Body, of course, from different seasons. One of my all-time favourite pieces of literature ever. It's, for me, a perfect coming-of-age story about four boys who hear of a dead body out in the woods to go and find. They go off to find it, but they learn so much about themselves and their friendships along the way. It's just magnificent, and it also gave us the quite perfect movie Stand By Me. So yeah, it is comfortably my favourite, comfortably, and I will love it forever, I think. So there we go, that's my personal countdown of Stephen King's published novellas, at least those listed as novellas on his website. Let me know what you think. What's your favourite Stephen King novella? And come and say hi on Instagram, where I'm at Dave Musson as well, and we can talk novellas, short stories, full lengths, whatever. Before you go, check out the Constant Writers podcast. You'll like it. Sign up to my mailing list and get this for free. You'll like it. And pick up a copy of the Ultimate Stephen King quiz book. You'll really like it. See how I built it there? And I think that's about it. Next time, bring some popcorn, because we are back on the movies.